The first topic that we're going to cover is detaching from people's reactions, because in many cases, bullies and other unhinged people just have negative reactions and try to blame you for them. And if you're too nice, you are going to do exactly that. You are going to fall into that trap. Let's take a look at how this mechanism works psychologically.
One of the most dangerous consequences of dealing with difficult or unhinged people is that, in many cases, you start identifying with their reactions. For example, you're bullied constantly and you start to believe it's your fault. Or you're constantly criticized and you start to believe that it's warranted. Or someone is a perfectionist and you start to believe that you are inferior. Why does this phenomenon happen? Well, there are two major causes here at play. The first is rationalization. We all want to believe that things happen for a reason, when in many cases, they just don't. So what happens is that whenever something happens, even if it's random, we reverse engineer a justification for them. For example, someone treats you badly, and even if there is no reason for it, your brain starts to try to find justifications for it. And soon enough, you come up with theories. Maybe you're incompetent, or maybe you deserve it for some other reason. This need to find a reason turns random occurrences into guilt. In other words, you are the one legitimizing their behavior, trying to find a reason for it, when they themselves may not have one. The second mechanism is trained reactions. Any reaction that we exhibit enough times becomes ingrained and automated, like a muscle. For example, start salivating over fast food enough times, and it becomes so automatic that whenever you pass by a burger, you immediately salivate. We become addicted to the reactions that we have frequently enough, and they become automatic. And this happens not just with senses, but with feelings. So if you start thinking that you're guilty when someone offends you, and if that happens enough times, it starts to become an automatic, unquestioned response. Soon enough, whenever someone insults you, you automatically feel guilty without even realizing that this mechanism is subconsciously running. Therefore, it's not surprising that the solution to dialing your internals and freeing yourself from these negative reactions is precisely to attack these two mechanisms. First of all, not rationalizing. What I mean is that, although you will want to find a reason for why someone else is treating you badly or behaving as they are, in many cases, there just isn't one. You have to realize that things happen randomly. Sometimes people are just crazy or just having a bad day. You need to turn off that kind of logical circuit in your brain that needs to find a logical solution. There isn't one. If you free yourself from having to come up with a justification for the person, you'll soon realize that it's not your problem. Whatever their reaction is, and whatever the cause is, it's not your issue, and you don't have to be the one to try and find the reason for it. It's their issue, separated from you. And then we attack this second mechanism, questioning your automated reactions. You need to realize that the way you act right here and right now may not be the right one. You may have subconscious processes that are running in the background that are just wrong, but because they're on autopilot, you don't even realize it. For example, if you've been mistreated for months, maybe more, your automatic reactions may be to feel guilty or bad about it. You've trained yourself to cope with it. Instead of keeping the possibilities open and going in with a fresh mind, your brain has simplified the process. And the simplest reaction is thinking that it's your fault. And you replicate this over and over, and now you've conditioned yourself. So in this case, you need the courage to question your automated behaviors. The key here is the following. Just because you're used to behaving in a certain way, it doesn't mean that it's the right one. It doesn't mean that this is quote-unquote you. Just like with the fast food example. Just because you've been trained to salivate over the burger every time that you look at it, it doesn't mean that it's supposed to happen. You've been programmed, conditioned to behave in this way. In the moment that you stop to question that pattern and that you think of alternatives, you give yourself the chance to break free from it. What are some examples of detaching from other people's reactions? The first is thinking, let the idiots come, expecting randomness and drama. If you realize that people will act in random ways and that they will be negative a lot of the time and that it's not due to you, you start to expect it. You start telling yourself, let the idiots come. What will they complain about today? I wonder what kind of random reaction they are going to have today. You realize it's not due to you. The second example is toxic relationships. A perfect example of trained reactions. The abusing person starts out normal, but they start to slowly abuse the other one. And this person may resist the first or the second time, but if they accept it enough times, it becomes a trained reaction. And now they're trapped because the other side keeps abusing them more and more, and the other side will adapt to that because they have created a trained reaction where they always feel guilty and they always feel this is their fault and they never stop to think. The third example is when you actually stop to think. When these automatic reactions are on loop for months or even years, you'll never stop to question them. But when you do stop and you look at things from a different perspective, you'll comment something such as, I can't believe that I did this, or I can't believe that I was blaming myself for this, because automated reactions depend on momentum. So kill that momentum and look at them from afar, and you realize how ridiculous they are. What are our key takeaways here? The first is that the other side wins if you identify with their reaction. Bullying is literally doing this. The person has an extreme reaction, and they count on you associating with it and feeling guilty for it. And now they have you because they know that you are going to react this way every time they do it. What you need to do is the opposite. You want to let the other side do what they want, observe it from afar, and never associate with them, being detached from their reaction. The second takeaway is rationalization. One of the reasons why we keep tolerating and making excuses for abusive people. We all want to think that there is a reason for their behavior, that there is something there. Guess what? There isn't. And the sooner you turn off that mechanism, that need to find a reason, the sooner you'll be free from this trap. The third takeaway is trained reactions. We don't make most of our decisions in the moment. We have programmed and conditioned ourselves. And you may have been conditioned to feel guilty or take the blame for others. So you need to stop and think, do I have an automated reaction running? Is this really me? Or am I just used to this?
So as you see, detaching from people's reactions is very important, and it's something that you have to do in order to really come from the right place and not blame yourself for what other people are doing.